Hello and welcome to Class 38. This class is on men, women, and moral development. So I want to open actually just with a discussion question. This is a text box that appears on page 4 of your textbook. Way back in the beginning when Lischka is introducing the ideas of studying morality, he mentions this 1997 survey conducted by Yankovic Partners for the Lutheran Brotherhood. And the results are from the survey that 51% of those surveyed think that women are more ethical than men. 26% of those surveyed believe that men and women are equally ethical, and 16% were undecided. Interestingly, no one seems to think that men are more ethical than women. Someone from the Lutheran Brotherhood, the organization that asked for this survey, claimed that the disparity was due to the fact that women tend to be nurturers in our society. Primary caregivers for children, that sort of thing. And because of this, they tend to be more trusted. So, for my opening discussion, I just want to ask whether you think that this is true. That is, whether Louise Thoreson's explanation of this discrepancy is true. And then underlying that, you can ask whether it's true that women are more ethical than men. So actually, I want you guys to pause your discussion, pause your presentation right here, and stop this and go over to the discussion forum and contribute some comments. Here, let me show you about that. Will this pop up? Yes, here we go. So this is the discussion forum, and what I've done here is I've created two threads. One will be for replies to the survey. So go here. See if I can open this. Right, and if you want to reply specifically on this thread, if you go down to the bottom of the screen, there's something there that says reply. So use that to discuss the survey. Okay, and then come back and watch the rest of the presentation afterwards. All right, well, welcome back from that discussion. You can see I'm inside now. So I want to put the survey that you just looked at and perhaps the discussion, the ideas that you were having about that survey, now in the context of what we've been doing in the class up to this point. So, previously, in your ethics class, we were looking at Lischka's theories on acquiring moral knowledge. And we saw that Lischka had this three-stage system where you began by simply identifying your moral intuitions, what feels right and what feels wrong to you. And then in the second stage, you attempted to systematize those to develop general rules. And the process of systematization was called reflective equilibrium. The final phase of this is the one that's important to us now. And this is the phase of justification. This is possibly the most advanced and difficult aspect of not just moral knowledge, but moral competence. This is when you try to determine whether your rules, your moral rules for action, are correct or worthy of being followed. Now, what's interesting here is that psychologists have, for decades now, been studying people's moral development, starting with the moral development of children and moving on through adolescence and finally adulthood. And one of the initial claims about moral development, human moral development from childhood to adulthood, was that this stage of justification is the final stage of moral development. Now, what does this have to do with men and women? We'll see in a second. First, I want to take a look at the original theory of moral development, this theory that actually put justification at the pinnacle of moral development. This is from a guy named Lawrence Kohlberg, a psychologist. He basically divided moral development into three big stages, and then each of those big stages were divided into two smaller stages. So sometimes you hear this called a 6-stage theory of moral development, and sometimes it's a 3-stage theory. But in any case, if you look at it, you can see pretty clearly standard patterns. I mean, if you have experience with children, or if you remember back to your own childhood, sort of what childhood really and development really looks like. The beginning is a pre-conventional stage. That is, it is prior to understanding morality even as a set of rules or conventions to follow. Often you hear people say that children are innocent, and I get this assertion made frequently in essays and in class. And we can drop this line that children are innocent. We all know it's not true. Small children are amoral and insane. And you can see at least the amoral aspect of that in Kohlberg's initial stage of development, the pre-conventional level. Here the two sub-stages are punishment and obedience and instrumental hedonism. And basically, at first, morality is just doing what mommy says, and you do it to avoid punishment. A little bit later, the reward aspect comes in. Children become very pleasure-seeking, instrumental hedonism. In my family, we call this treat-seeking behavior, what you do when you want to get some candy. But again, there's no sense of morality here other than a way to get a reward. So the pre-conventional level for Kohlberg's stages of moral development is all avoiding punishment and getting reward. But eventually, as the child gets older, they come to recognize not just that there are punishments and rewards, but that there are rules that you're supposed to follow. And a lot of this corresponds to coming to understand the larger world outside of the immediate nuclear family. And here, although we are now interested in rules rather than just rewards, the rules are themselves not justified in any way. So at the first stage in the conventional level, it's the good boy, good girl mentality. You just try to please the grown-ups, win social approval by following the rules. And then eventually, once you recognize that there are rules beyond the rules of your immediate house, you just kind of recognize that that there's a social order, and morality means following it. It is only really when you get to adolescence and what Kohlberg calls the post-conventional stage of moral development that you see real justification playing a role in morality. So this is what corresponds then to Lischke's third stage of the acquisition of moral knowledge, where you can actually justify what you think the rules of morality are. And at first, this justification is simply consensus-based. You can think of this as a kind of social contract theory. Morality is whatever set of rules we can agree on, perhaps agree on in a fair negotiating situation. According to Kohlberg, though, we can go beyond social contract morality and actually reflectively derive and justify our own principles for ourselves that we then apply to ourselves. And this has a very Kantian feel to it. So it's not just an internalized morality, it's an internalized rule-based morality where the rules are rationally justified. Kohlberg felt very strongly that this is, in fact, the nature of morality, and he made it really a principle going into his empirical research that this would be the highest level of development. And he did not find that everyone got to this level of development. Many people, he thought, stayed at earlier conventional or at least consensus-based levels of morality. So those are the three levels for Kohlberg: the conventional,